Well, Southern Australia is facing severe heatwave conditions as we head into the new year. Joining me live is Daffodil Centre Deputy Director Anne Cust. Anne, appreciate your time today. What are your top tips for protecting yourself during summer?
Hi, thanks for having me. Oh, look, it's really important in Australia, where we've got the highest rates of skin cancer in the world, to be doing the slip-slop-slap-seek and slide. So, slapping on a hat, slopping on sunscreen, slipping on sun protective clothing, seeking shade, and sliding on sunglasses. So it's really important that we do that all year round, but particularly this time of year.
Well, you mentioned, of course, using sunscreen. Do you have a preference on what brand or type that we should be using?
I think with sunscreen, any sunscreen that you find works well for your skin. So any type of sunscreen is fine, as long as it's SPF 30 and above, ideally 50 and above, which most sunscreens are these days. As long as there's so many different sunscreens out there, and if you find one that you like, the one that you wear is the one that's the best, really. Yeah.
Now, for those who are in heatwave conditions over the next few days and say might want to head to the beach or to a river for a swim, is there a particular time of day that you prefer people to enjoy the warmer weather?
Yeah, so the ultraviolet radiation from the sun changes during the day, so it's strongest towards the middle of the day. So if you're in a place where there's daylight savings, then that would be, say, between 11 and 3. You should avoid the midday sun if you can, or between 10 and 2 if you don't have daylight savings. So ideally before that time or after that time would be the safest. Otherwise, if you're out and about, even in the hottest part of the day, if you can find some shade, that would be the best place to be.
Well, you mentioned shade. Now, look, it's overcast in Queensland at the moment. Is it still important to be using sun protection if the clouds are out?
Yeah, I think that's a common misconception, actually, when people think if it's shady or, if it's cloudy or perhaps if it's a cool day, people can think, oh, maybe I don't need sun protection. But actually at this time of year, when the UV levels are in the extreme range, even if it's a bit cloudy, the UV levels can still be really high. And in fact, the UV that we get in Australia is about double that they get in Europe and America, and that's why we have sort of double the skin cancer rates here. So even on a cloudy day or a cool day in the summer, it's really important to use sun protection.
If you do end up with sunburn, Anne, is there anything that we can do?
Well, unfortunately, if you've already been burnt, the damage has been done, but of course you can moisturize your skin and keep out of the sun to try and prevent further damage, but it is really hard in Australia to completely avoid sunburn. But the best thing you can do is to apply sunscreen and use other forms of sun protection, and it's important to reapply the sunscreen if you're out for more than, say, 2 hours, or if you're in the swimming, it will easily sort of come off in the water, or if you're rubbing yourself with the towel. So it's important to reapply.
And just finally, from your experience, are you finding that the younger generations are still being vigilant with sun protection?
I think it varies a lot between, individuals, but generally speaking, the younger generation is better than the older generation, and that's because we've seen a lot of improvements in sun protection. Since the 1980s, say, there's better sunscreens available and there's better protective clothing available, and so for younger people, the rates of melanoma are lower than they were compared to when the older generation was the same age. So I think things are improving over time, but it's really important not to let our guard down. It's really important to use sun protection all the time. So I think it's also important for older people to, even older people who think the damage has been done, there's studies showing that sunscreen can reduce the incidence of melanoma by half. So even if you've had damage in the past, it's important to keep using sun protection.
Incredible. Daffodil Centre Deputy Director Ann Cust, appreciate your time on Boxing Day. Thank you.
Thank you, and enjoy the time in the sun.